From the studio of WTAP Plus, you're watching Women of the MOV with host Phyllis Smith.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to another podcast episode of Women of the MOV. Today I have Jenn Westfall. She is the Aging and Health Director at the Buckeye Hills Regional Council. I'm going to send it over. There she is.
Hey, everyone.
Miss America.
Not quite.
So, Jenn, we were kind of talking a little bit about, aging and how if you're lucky, you get to age, and we all have to do it. But a lot of times people come to you when it's almost, they're in crisis mode.
Yeah, we used to say aging is so great, everyone's doing it. And we are. But it's true, we were chatting about planning and getting ready and having conversations, and unfortunately most of the time when we encounter folks, they're in crisis, and by crisis it's we get a phone call of I need a meal, and typically if they reach the point of needing a meal, there's other things going on. But that crisis can also be something like an adult child comes home for Thanksgiving and they're shocked at the changes that they see in mom or dad, and they're shocked at, mom and dad and how they're living and whatnot. And so they call us, we've got to do something, they need help. And that's usually when people reach out, and it would just be, we need to hear from people sooner. Not that we don't want you to not reach out if you're in crisis, but there's so much planning that can go into aging that makes it a more enjoyable process.
Yes. So what are some things you think maybe people like that you would maybe recommend, or maybe time frames, maybe that you should?
I just think, I don't think that there's a deadline per se, but I think people need to have conversations. They really need to talk about it. They're hard conversations. I mean, they really are.
Yeah, I feel like that's why people avoid them.
Yeah, I mean, that's why we all avoid them. But, when you start having these conversations, you're having these conversations because you're starting to discuss the end of someone's life, and that's hard for the individual on all sides. I don't want to talk to my mom about that, and my dad really doesn't want to discuss it, but it's just in the best interest that we look forward in time and we have these conversations, not just for the family's sake, but for the person who's aging, so they can age how they want to age. And we were talking about aging in place, and aging in place is great. And what that essentially means is you age where you want to age. If you're a person that wants to age and spend your latter years at home, work on it, figure it out. What's that going to take? If you're a person that, my mom, she was a long-term care nurse. She says, put me in a nursing home. I know what I'm allowed to have and not allowed to have. Mm-hmm. She's going to be horrible for that staff. She knows she can have a bottle of wine. So, but having those conversations, and they don't have to be doom and gloom conversations. It's about planning. It's about making decisions. It can save a lot of family turmoil and a lot of grief and heartache in the long run to have those conversations.
So how did you get interested in this field?
Oh, well, as I said, my mother, long-term care nurse for over 47 years. I like to say I kind of grew up in nursing facilities and around older adults. I was her volunteer for a lot of years.
Voluntold, as a word, yeah.
So, so I kind of grew up in this field, and I diverted from it for a while. I worked in Department of Rehabs and Corrections and mental health in the prison systems and whatnot. But I ended up back here, and there's a dignity that you're owed as you age, and I think that in this work, there's a satisfaction, a gratitude that, if we can help take care of folks and give them a better life later in life, it just kind of pulls you in, and and these folks have amazing stories, and they're still here for a reason, and it's just something else to work with them and talk with them.
Yes, and so I'm going to back up just a little bit. So Buckeye Hills Regional Council, can you kind of explain what that is if somebody might not know?
Very simple. So Buckeye Hills Regional Council is a development district, a council of government, meaning that we represent 8 counties in Southeast Ohio, and I always say it's like the 7 dwarfs. We've got Monroe, Noble, Washington, Morgan, Perry, Hocking, Athens, and Meigs.
Ah, nice.
Those are the 8 counties that we represent. And our board is made up of the county commissioners from those counties, which kind of is what turns us into a council of governments. But when the Older Americans Act, which is federal legislation that established area agencies on aging in the country, every state's got them, it gave development districts what they call the right of first refusal. Buckeye Hills didn't refuse. They said, yes, we will take on the area agency on aging work. And so we are a designated area agency on aging. And folks oftentimes are familiar with those area agencies on aging, what we call a AAA. There's 3 A's in there.
Mm-hmm.
And so we run and kind of facilitate the Older Americans Act programs in partnership with our community actions, our senior centers. Ohio has a program called Passport, which is a waiver program, again, helping people age in place. It's an alternative to nursing homes. We also just started at the beginning of August 1st, the MyCare program, which also is a diversion program. And so we just serve the older adults in those 8 counties the best we can. But Buckeye Hills Regional Council as a whole, we have community and economic development, we have transportation and planning, we do all kinds of things. And we're located up on Glendale, just outside of Marietta.
Oh, you took the words right out of my mouth. I was going to
Yeah.
ask where you were located.
Yeah, 2585 Glendale.
So do people come to your office building a lot, or are you kind of over the phone, or do you kind of just facilitate people with where they need to go?
So a little bit of everything. So those Older Americans Act funds come into our building. We have everything's done by census, so please complete your census because our declining population needs to be counted to keep our money. But and then we push those funds out to those community-based agencies. But then we also in-house, we have what we call our front door, our Aging and Disability Resource Network, that are manned with information referral specialists. I'm always amazed at what they know. But they work with folks both over the phone and in person. And they help them navigate Medicare, Medicaid, ensure you have the appropriate coverage. And we will go over things with you. Like we will look at your physicians, we will look at your meds, and then we'll show you what Medicare plan is best suited for you. And the great thing about us, as opposed to the commercials you see on television where they promise you gym memberships and free groceries, we don't have anything to gain from this. So we're literally just going to lay out every possible option that you have, and you can pick what suits you best. We make no money off of this. There is no charge for this. We're literally here to help you and have you make the best choice that you can make. So folks can walk in and do that. They can call and do that. When we start looking at our other programming, we have the Passport program, which is what keeps people in their home. We have 18 to 20 care managers. And essentially what they do is they meet with individuals regularly to ensure their needs are getting met. And again, we partner with those community organizations for transportation, for meals, for personal care, for homemaker services, all of those things. Because again, we want to keep you in your home. We don't want to take you out of it.
Wonderful. Do you cross over into West Virginia at all? I know we're close, but...
No, the Passport program does not. But there are area agencies on aging here in Parkersburg and Vienna. So
Okay.
yeah.
Wow. So do you feel like sometimes people don't know that you all are available, or are you
world's
stretched
greatest
thin?
secret? I feel like no matter how much advertising, how much promoting we do, people are like, oh, where were you 6 months ago when I was dealing with my mom?
You're
We were at
right.
2585 Glendale.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, we are the secret again because people don't think about aging until they're in the throes of it. And I think that's why we often get folks who are in a bit of a crisis by the time they call us.
What do you think? Is there anything about aging that you wish people knew, or that you see time and time again, that it just kind of passes them by? Is there anything you think that could be helpful to somebody who's maybe they're aging or their parent is aging?
I think it comes back to that planning and those conversations. You know, we talk often, you know, about how all of our programming that we have, the Older Americans Act program and the Passport, all of it, it'd be 60 plus, okay? But you really need to start planning and start getting your affairs in order and having conversations in your early 50s. So Medicaid has a thing that's called the 5-year look back. And so if you have any chance of being Medicaid eligible for your long-term services and supports, everything has to be taken care of 5 years before you think you might need services.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So let's say, okay, you become eligible at 60. So you want to have everything in place by the time you're 55. So you want to have either a trust made by the time you're 55. You want to have bank accounts taken care of by the time you're 55. You want to have all of that taken care of. If you do it, let's say you wait and you get it done and you wrap it up when you're 66, but at 63 you end up going into the nursing home and there's only 3 years in there, then it's considered what they call an improper transfer. And so whatever, let's say you gave your child $15,000 to buy a house, if it's in that 5 years, that money has to come back. So that education, that understanding, I think is vitally important to understand. And understanding estate recovery. And estate recovery is a federal thing. West Virginia and Ohio both handle it differently. But in Ohio, with estate recovery, I think people are afraid to get in programmings because they don't want to lose their home. They don't want to. But none of that happens until after the last person living in the home passes. So they're not going to do what they call impoverish a spouse. So if your wife goes into a nursing facility, they're not going to take your home while you're still living, or vice versa. They won't do anything in estate recovery until you both pass on. I think sometimes people think that the state's going to come and take their home and that kind of thing, but not until everyone passes. But yeah, it's a lot. And I think the biggest tidbit that this will apply to both Ohio and West Virginia that everybody needs to hear is that Medicare doesn't pay for everything. I think people wait for Medicare thinking that it's insurance is going to pay for it. It really doesn't. And so educating yourself on exactly what Medicare does, because it's not a pay for everything insurance. And I think sometimes people are shocked by that when they reach those Medicare ages.
It sounds kind of intimidating.
Oh,
like,
yes.
And like a lot of red tape and.
It is. It's, and I feel like there's a lot of talking about it because it's so complicated, and we joke at the office because there's times where we'll go, oh, I didn't know that, and we've been doing this for years, and so we'll say, imagine how confusing it is for an older adult who, I don't care how hard you try, cognitively something's going to slow down. Or families in crisis, and they're trying to navigate these systems and make decisions. And so doing it ahead of time is key. We keep coming back to that.
Yes,
Plan.
yes, be
You need to
proactive.
plan,
Yeah, but like you were kind of saying, it's hard to think about when you're aging and you're slowing down, and you don't want to lose your independence. What would you say would maybe be a proactive thing to maybe keep your independence?
Pick your rugs up off the floor.
Literally, though.
Literally, pick up your rugs.
That's going to be the headline of this podcast. Pick up your rugs.
Pick up the rugs. Sorry.
That
I
is so
can't even get
funny.
my own mother to pick up the rugs. They're such a trip hazard, and it seems like falls are the biggest thing that kind of send folks on a downhill spiral. So yeah, pick up your rugs.
No rugs in the house.
No rugs in the house. I think that to prepare for aging, I think look at your home. We joke about the rugs, but there's so many programs out there that can help you get your home ready. For example, we have a housing coordinator. He's an aging in place specialist. So they can come out and talk to you about like what you need to do to your home in order to help you age well in your home. Those people are out there. So that's one very concrete thing that you can do. I think, they talk about activity, keeping yourself active, both physically and your brain, in order to, age well. And I also think staying connected and not isolating. I think sometimes folks kind of accidentally isolate. And before they know it, they're, if we learned anything from COVID, we all got really comfortable staying home.
Yes.
So I think that isolation, they talk about that being as bad as smoking. So yeah, and the overall taking care of yourself and taking care of your surroundings and there's folks out there that'll help you with no judgment. We're not here to judge how you live. We're just here to help you stay and live where you want to live.
Do you work with Meals on Wheels?
Meals on Wheels, well, we just lump it in as home delivered meals. Meals on Wheels is kind of like the name brand of home delivered meals. But yeah, so we work.
But you can help with that?
Yeah. When we talk about those Older Americans Act funds, we push those out to our local home delivered meal providers. We also have some what we call drop ship home delivered meal providers, which is like a Mom's Meals or something, and they mail in a week's worth and they get dropped off. But yeah, we work with the home delivered meal providers. Congregate dining, which is the meals at the senior centers. You literally talk about a cheap lunch. You can go and have a nice cheap lunch, take care of that isolation, meet some folks. My 78-year-old mother won't go because she says that's where the old people are. But our older adults are getting younger. What folks would say, call a senior center, they're really changing. I mean, we have seniors.
Pickleball.
I know. They have pickleball courts, pool tables. They have poker rooms. They have, I go in and I'm like, man,
Yeah, and I think today's senior also looks a lot different than seniors maybe 20 years ago.
Yeah. Those things they show you online, like, this guy, when he played his character, was 40 years old and he looks like he's 70. Yeah. I say all the time, our older adults are getting younger. And I think it's education, it's awareness, it's that activity, good skincare.
That sunscreen really helps.
So I do think they're getting younger. They're getting more tech savvy.
This is true.
Yeah.
So I feel like it's nice. Maybe like a senior can maybe FaceTime. Maybe if they can't get out, maybe.
Yeah. And there's all kinds of wild AI tools coming. Everything about these virtual pets and all of this stuff.
Oh, right.
So I think there are new ways to address social isolation, and yeah, they are getting younger. I used to think, but it's coming. They're most of the folks that we have falling into the category that we would say an older adult, by the time they retired, they were using technology. So they know how to do this stuff, and so they are getting younger.
Yes. And so have you been at Buckeye Hills for a long time?
About 10 years.
Oh, wow.
That's hard to believe.
Wow. Are you from this area?
Yeah, actually, I grew up in Noble County.
Oh, okay.
Very deep-seated roots in Monroe, but now we're down in Marietta, so.
Oh, great. And where did you get your undergrad?
OU. Where else does everybody else around here get their undergrad?
Yeah.
So yeah, I went to OU in the 90s.
Oh, I bet that was fun.
30 plus years ago.
Social media and stuff. Yeah.
Oh yeah, before cell phones, cameras, and proof.
Yeah. Evidence. Yeah.
Evidence. Yeah. Yeah. So, but yeah, it was a great time at OU. But yeah, my public health background. My dad told me one time he couldn't grasp this need for public health, of that generation of you should have been an accountant or a teacher or a nurse. But as COVID proved, there is a need for public health.
What was that like, navigating COVID?
Oh, wow. 7 days a week, 24 hours a day.
Oh, wow.
It was a lot. Everything from, when COVID entered into our first nursing facility, the reason why it was such a big deal when COVID got into nursing facilities is because they didn't necessarily have the ability to provide acute care, meaning, they're places for chronic conditions. And so they didn't necessarily have the machines and the equipment to take care of someone that was in an acute crisis. So, we were working with the National Guard. We were doing a lot of things, and just managing the vaccine and, older adults being made as a priority. We became a point of contact for vaccine schedules because everything was complete this online, which is great. We were just talking about our younger, more tech-savvy adults, but we cover such a large geographic area that you get into some of our more rural counties, it isn't about skills and ability, it's about access.
Yes, if you can even connect to it at all.
And so we then became that calling on a landline, and we would sign people up. And then, I spoke earlier about our care managers. They do home visits. They go and meet people face to face. So we literally spent 2 years taking everything from face to face to telephonic. And so we were having to kind of trust what people were telling us. And there's a great benefit to eyes on a person, They can tell us they've picked up their rugs, but there's 30 in the living room. And so eyes on matters. And so that was a challenge and a change that we had to adjust to. But there were some great things that came out of it. We were funded to a level we should be funded every year. They've since taken that money back, and we're feeling it. But then things like, because we couldn't be in groups, congregate dining had to adjust. So no longer were folks gathering at a congregate dining location to have lunch. So it's like, okay, how are we going to do this? We started doing drive-through meals. We were doing what we called grab and go. And it was so popular and so successful that that's become a permanent service. So, grab and go options are now across the state in conjunction with congregate. So there were some really great lessons learned that we grew out of it, but it was a lot.
Yeah, it's interesting to see what things have stuck from the pandemic
Yeah.
and which have kind of fallen away. And I'm sure you all were a great resource during that time.
Yeah, we too were remote. I remember I took my stuff home and I didn't take my office chair because I thought it's only going to be 2 weeks. And then it turned in, I'm not going to get my chair because about the time I bring it home, they'll call us back. And then finally I got my chair. But we did a lot of adjusting. We did a lot of work by telephone, and it tested us. It tested our skills, made a lot of changes, met a lot of great people. The partnerships, just like I said, everything from health systems to National Guard to emergency management, the way the community just came together to take care of things. It was impressive to see. Don't want to have to do it again anytime soon.
Yes, and I know telehealth, I feel like that has exploded too in the wake of
Yeah, I think
COVID.
people got comfortable with that, with the telehealth, in the fact that it even changed some legislation during COVID to allow telehealth to operate across state lines, because that wasn't before. And so it really opened up a lot of things. And I do think if there's anything good about COVID, we learned a lot and made some adjustments.
Is there anything that is on the horizon that you think people, the aging population should know about?
My care. And I really wish we would kind of name things something different. We have Medicare, Medicaid, My Care. It doesn't help with the confusion and understanding.
Right.
But in Ohio, a program started. It actually started 10 years ago, but it was limited to the urban areas. And for the past 2 years, they've been working on taking it statewide. It came to our region on August 1st, so now it is statewide. We were the last ones. I was so happy to be last. But it is now statewide. What it is I spoke about the passport program, letting people age in place at home where they want to. My Care is the same thing. But the difference between passport and My Care is My Care involves managed care. So there's 4 managed care plans that are involved in My Care. And this is where different names would be helpful.
Yeah.
If your Medicare and Medicaid is managed by an MCO, and you have to have both, okay, what we call dually eligible, then you're going to go into this My Care program. And the idea is your care is then managed by managed care, and it helps keeps the cost down for the state. So if you're an individual that has both Medicare and Medicaid, okay, and you have Anthem taking care of your Medicare, and you have a managed care plan managing your Medicaid, starting November 1st, they're going to align you, and you're going to go into My Care, okay? It impacts us in our agency because there's clear as mud. There's a component in there that is called a waiver, and we work with the waiver individuals, okay? But if you take the people who are eligible for My Care, 100% of them, the waiver component's only 35%. So you have about 65% of that population is what we call community well. These are folks who are doing just fine, who have Medicare and Medicaid, I don't want to say they aren't chronically ill, but they aren't high need, they aren't, they're just out living in the community. It's going to impact them as well. From now until November 1st, you have the ability to select what managed care plan you want taking care of you. After November 1st, if you have it actively selected, Medicaid's going to do it for you. So just if you're in the state of Ohio and you have Medicare and Medicaid both with managed care, touch base with us. Let us make sure that you are on the best plan for your needs. We were talking earlier that when they're going to call us is when they go to the pharmacy and their meds are $500 instead of $5. And that's fine. Call us. But we really don't want you to get to that point. We don't want you to go to the doctor and your doctor say, oh, we're no longer in network. We want you to make a decision to have control in your care. So if you have both Medicare and Medicaid, call us. Just touch base with us. Stop by and see us.
And is this for 60 plus?
60 plus.
60 plus.
Yeah, we'll help anybody. But and actually, I misspoke. My care is 21 and up. They did change that. It's 21 and up. So yeah, just touch base with us. Make sure you've got the best coverage that you can have. And like I said, we do it free of charge.
And you can drop by or call.
Drop by or call. The other thing that we do free of charge is if you have, we'll help you. We'll come meet with you before you're 60, help you plan. But we also have what's called a long-term care consultation. We will come out to your home. If you want your mom and dad to have it, set it up. You can be there. We come to your home and we lay out all the information and education in front of you so that you can have those conversations and you can make that planning and you can talk about what you want to have done. No cost. Just give us a call. And if you don't want us, because we understand there are people who don't want us in their home because they think we're going to judge how they live. We understand. We're not going to, but we understand. You can come to us and we can do the long-term care consultation in person.
Do you know the number offhand, or?
It is 1-800. I always flip one digit, so let me double check.
I was just thinking if any seniors happen to be watching this podcast. Oh, if they're watching the podcast, they probably know how to Google. But, sometimes I think we take it for granted. Not every senior is, on an iPhone or
I know.
An Android,
They're getting younger, but again, like we said, sometimes they just don't have access.
Right.
So the 1-800 number is 1-800-331-2644.
And that's to get to Buckeye
That's
Hills?
to get to Buckeye Hills and call in and just ask more often than not, one of our screeners will answer, either Brandy, Jerry, or Jamie. They'll answer the call. And if we don't know the answer, we'll find it for you. We will.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
Because I feel like aging is a scary thing. And like you said, kind of like when you need the help, it's usually when you're in the thick of it.
Mm-hmm.
And then by the time you get the help that you need, it's like you've already blown past that point.
Right. Yeah. And it's either a fall or, like I said, someone comes home for the holidays, you get discharged from a hospital. There's always something going on. So any kind of planning you can put in place, it just makes it simpler and cleaner.
And that's great that you can, even if you're not the resource, you can kind of help.
Oh, yeah. We do warm
with them.
handoffs all the time.
Oh.
And we get phone calls for all kinds of stuff. So not even aging related. So, yeah, but we do our best to pass it along. We're what we like to say, we're in no wrong door. We're just.
And so are there different organizations like yours all across the state with different names, or is Buckeye Hills the names of?
No, there are 12 area agencies on aging across the state. They start in Cincinnati. We're all numbered. We happen to be AAA 8. They're all numbered, with number 1 being in Cincinnati, up to Toledo, which is 4, back down to Rio Grande, which is 7, and back up to Cleveland and Ashton. Well, Youngstown's 11. There's 12 of us, but we only go to 11. They did a 10A and 10B for some reason. But there are 12 of us. But
it's kind of lucky, I guess, in this area to have one of the 12.
Yeah. And we feel Ohio did it kind of right in the fact that they regionalized us. And, there are states where there's one in every county. There are states where there's only one, like what would be considered the state unit on aging is the AAA, and they handle the whole state. And the regional approach tends to be kind of, we think, a sweet spot. But yeah, so they're all across Ohio. They're all across the nation, no matter what state you live in. They're federally regulated in the Older Americans Act.
Wow, that's great.
Mm-hmm.
I was going to ask you, I was in my brain just a second ago. I guess that's aging.
That's aging.
Oh, I know what it was. It came back to me. I'm sure there's been lots of instances where you've really been able to help someone. Is that one of the most rewarding parts of your job? Is that what you like most, is
It is. It's funny because we have conversations in a house a lot, particularly at our management level when we're dealing with things that you got into this work to help people. And then the farther along you get in your career, sometimes it feels like the farther away you get from the reason you got into it.
Yeah.
But there are times, we have a home mod program where, again, we do those home modifications to help folks stay in their home. And when you hear about the things they do by putting a ramp on someone's house or widening a doorway so their wheelchair fits, or a bathroom so they have dignity and can shower, it does a lot for you. But one of the more immediate things, and this actually open enrollment starts October, I want to say 7th, but I don't think that's right. I think it ends December 7th, but starts in October. And open enrollment's important because it's the one time a year where folks get to look at their Medicare coverage to make sure all their formularies and their physicians and everything stay the same. So I don't care what state you're in. If you have Medicare, please, please, please reach out and have somebody look at your coverage again to make sure you have the right coverage. But when we go through the open enrollment process, I think last year alone, with the people we helped as a total, we saved people like $190,000.
Wow.
And so when we have people come in and they're paying $30,000 for a med and the simple review with us, and suddenly that medication is covered and you see the relief, you see that burden leave them, it's great. And again, that's those screeners. And they do an amazing job with it. But every year, it's like $100,000 plus they're saving people with open enrollment. So open enrollment, check your Medicare.
I'm sure people have been moved to tears by, the help you've been able to offer them.
We have, in one of the home mod moments, we had a girl who was literally carrying her mother. She would take the wheelchair out of the house and then carry her mother out of the house and put her in the wheelchair because she didn't have a ramp. And so our ability to give her that ramp and give that freedom. I mean, imagine being trapped in your home. Yeah.
Wow. Well, Jen, I could talk to you forever about aging, but is there anything that you'd like to add before we go?
No, just take to heart what we talked about. I mean, look at that planning, share with folks what you want, and check your Medicare. You might be paying when you don't have to be. And yeah, things are expensive. Let us save you some money if we can.
That's another, let us save you some money if we can and get rid of those. But I'm sure you're also a great resource for children, like adult children that are helping their parents, their aging parents as well.
Yeah, we are. We work with caregivers, and there's programs out there to support caregivers. There's programs out there that can help pay you to be a caregiver to your parent if you're providing care for your parent. So yeah, I mean, you do not have to be 60 to call us. I mean, we have children call us. If you have a neighbor, you can make a referral to us, and then our screening department will reach out to them to see if they're willing to accept the help. We can take a call and a referral from anyone of any age.
Oh, wow. That's wonderful. Yeah. Well, Jen, thank you so much
for having me.
your time. And that wraps up another Women of the MOV podcast. And I will see everybody next time. I'm trying to get a picture of the two of us, but this doesn't want to cooperate.